election cycle was probably the most contentious. I think I'll use that word, contentious, divisive, and even vile. Maybe not violent. Thank God for that we didn't have a lot of violence where there was a lot of loss of life. So we're grateful for that. But the tribal and ethnic rhetorics and just those things that have really plagued the space is something that we need to find a way to move forward from that and come back to the center. We are one Nigeria. So how do we do that? How do we embark on this journey? How do we, I wouldn't say forget, how do we heal from all that has happened and then still find a way to chart the course, the path forward to a peaceful, united and progressive Nigeria? So we're going to open that up for discussion. And I don't know if Pastor Sonny is in. Pastor Olu, is Pastor Sonny in? So you are the guest today. So please feel free to raise your hand and speak, and then we'll call you up, we'll mute you. How do we
Pastor Sonny is not yet in.
Okay, thank you. So this is an open discussion, is an open mic for us to discuss the issues, and I think having a good understanding of the issues also helps us to come up with concrete solutions and how to implement those proposed solutions. Do we have any hand up? Yes, we have one hand up. Thank you. I'm not sure. Sorry, Mr. Abiola or Miss Abiola Sapo. Please go ahead. And then we have Ayodeji Olulani. Please go ahead.
Who are you asking to go ahead?
Abiola.
Okay.
Your hand was up first, and then Ayodeji would go after you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. The most important thing is that right now, the election is not quite over because there are matters before the judiciary. And that is very, very important and crucial because the ball is now in the courts of the judiciary, and we are expecting that justice should be done and should be seen to be done. This is a very vital and important aspect of this whole process. It is from there that when we know in concrete facts and figures who actually won the election, then the country can begin a journey of healing. And then we will then know how best to go about the healing process. But I must say again that with all that got thrown up in the course of the election, it shows that it's a time for us to escalate the advocacy for a restructuring program. So that is one thing that has appeared quite noticeably with the way things had happened and ended up to this point yet. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. But the judicial process can take a long time. It's not a 1 week, it's not going to court and then maybe in a week there will be a resolution. It could be a long dragged out process. So, but what do we do in the interim while we're waiting? We can't just fold our hands and wait. We have to also, we as Nigerian citizens have to find a way to take the country back. We can't wait for the politicians to decide our fate. So what do we as Nigerians, what are some of the things that we can begin to do as we're waiting for this process? And it's going to go either way, whether the judicial, it's going to go one way or the other. And we're not going to have, there are some people that are going to be happy and there are some people that are going to be sad, just like this election. So how do we begin to address those challenges? And we can start talking about it now. So just throwing that out there for us to chew on while we continue this discussion. And Mr. Ayodeji Olulani, please go ahead. I believe you've been asked to unmute.
Yes. The situation we have on our hand is that there is already a boo-boo trap. Going to court is going to take a long time. We've had so many instances that, especially at the state level, where governors are almost finishing their terms before judgments were given. I see the same situation happening in respect of the presidential election. Maybe we'll get to almost close to the fourth year before something is said. So having said that, what do we do in the time being, or what will the government in court that will take reign from 29th of May, what should we expect from them? How do we take our country back? The last speaker said something which was quite interesting, maybe on a higher level. Currently, the generality of the Nigerian people are confused. They are hopeless. They are insecure. What they want at this point in time is a reassurance of a new hope. It's a reassurance that they will be able to live secured life. It's a reassurance that their means of livelihood will be adequately restored. There is the assurance that there is a future of economic growth and prosperity, a reassurance that they can put food on the table for their impoverished families. That the reassurance that we want may have to be started with the government in court that will come in, because I see that a government will come in on 29th. It will come in, but we cannot wait. But what do we expect from that government? Mm-hmm. That is where I agree with the last speaker. We should put on the table a restructuring of this country. It is most of the problems that we have emanate from the fact that of loop-sided, whatever you call it, of development, loop-sided revenue allocation, loop-sided whatever, and the inability of the state to generate revenue, not to get allocation of revenue. That is quite degrading, and it's telling us that we are not creative. So I agree very much with the last speaker that the incoming government, it will come on, no matter whatever conspiracy theories that we have, that government will come on, the way I see it. Mm-hmm. What do we expect from the government? What is the future we want? What is the Nigerian path to the future that the generality of the people want? This is what we should consider. And that's why I said people have to live for the next 3-4 years. And then that's a little I can contribute at this point.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talks about the restructuring, and it seems like none of the administrations have had an appetite to actually take that bold step of initiating this discussion. So, but we as citizens, how can we advocate and ensure that that is something that really does come to the table? So I'm just also putting it out there. I'm not answering the question, so it's part of what we need to talk about, because we've been waiting for politicians and it hasn't really served us too well. But we as the citizens, our engagement in ensuring that we get the process and we get the Nigeria that we deserve, how can we be actively engaged and really move their hand to make those to implement those policies or legislations? So I'm going to call on Mr. Tony Okafor. Mr. Okafor. Is Mr. Okafor in?
Mr. Antonio, unmute yourself.
Mr. Antonio Okafor, please unmute yourself. Did you ask him to unmute? Okay. Okay. So can we have? Are you okay? Go ahead. If Mr. Okafor is not available, can we have Mr. Charles Iyori unmute himself?
Mr. Okafor is available now. He's speaking now.
Yeah, okay. Has he unmuted
Hello.
himself?
Are you talking to me?
Mr. Okafor.
Yes, sir, that is you.
Okay, I didn't know that. My name is not Okafor. My name is Ugbebo. If you're talking to me, can you hear me?
Okay. Okay, yes, it's Mr. Anthony Ugbebo.
Anthony Ugbebo.
Ugbebo.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry,
I had Okafor written down.
Oh, you said
Apologies.
Okafor. Okay, so I didn't know. Okay, so I didn't even raise my hand up. But anyway, let me just say something here. Good afternoon, everybody. Before I forget, the guy who spoke last week, I was cringing while he was speaking. It's very important that we're educated, because the politics of Nigeria, there seems to be too much naivety in the southern part of the country. We don't know what they're discussing up north, or the middle belt, or religion. We're here very educated, PhD everywhere. The bottom line is, what that guy spoke last week is very telling. That's Bayo Adeneko. He said that we should all come together. Sounds good, in quote. Then he said that there should be a law that people should not go on air to discuss security issues, that you can go on air to discuss economic issues. What is that telling anyone? That is infringement on freedom of the press. I know he's not going to be the leader of Nigeria, but it's very telling. And he sounded very convincing. But when you look and read between the lines, what he was saying, if there are killings in Zamfara, no one can discuss it. By the way, he buttressed his point by saying that he went to America. In America, nobody discusses security issues on the air and all that. That's a big lie right there. All right? So, if you can only discuss economic issues, according to him, I want to point this out because sometimes people get carried away with different things. People say we're not gifted equally, 100%. We're not gifted equally. And people get misunderstood and take things the other way. So, how do you discuss economic issues if you don't have your life? So you think about that. That's one issue the guy said last week, which was absolute nonsense. The second thing, he tried to justify the religious ticket that we have right now, the Muslim ticket. He tried to justify it by saying, when you go into a plane, you don't ask who the pilot is. Makes sense, right? On the front end, but it's not complete. The pilot of an aircraft is trained, certified by an independent, internationally recognized organization. The pilot of an aircraft does not discriminate when it gets into the cockpit to say, you know what, those on row 10 to 25 should not be served between New York and London. The pilot of an aircraft does not tell the cabin crew, disrespect those on row 15 to 35. In other words, if you make a complaint against the pilot of an aircraft, he gets fired by the airline. Therefore, when you get into an airplane, you're rest assured you're dealing with a professional from start to finish. And it is based on this reality that you're not interested in whether or not is Hindu, Christian, or Muslim, or whatever. In the case of Nigeria, we all know what Nigeria is. If you don't know what Nigeria is by now, you should be, somewhere below in the Atlantic Ocean. The religious ticket is critically important. Why is that? It's not because they're not going to do any good. No. Perception is reality. We've gone through too much turmoil, too much torture with the Buhari administration. To begin to pretend today, like, oh, I hear this talk, how do we move forward? How do we move forward to where? You're coming from a place of distress that is a continuum. Even before independence, go and look at your history. It's the hands that did this INEC. Let me say this. 2 years ago, I said on this platform, I don't trust INEC. 2 years ago, I gave my reasons. For those who were not there, because when I wanted to get a PVC, I found INEC to be a very, very corrupt organization. This is my view. And I can say to you today, I've been putting together, uncoupling the recent election in Nigeria. There is a mafia in INEC. People are misunderstood and confused. They're saying that, oh, let them do better the next election if they can only do better. You're missing the point. It was a premeditated, pre-designed, pre-planned, well-executed operation to ensure at all costs that there's continuity for APC. And here's why. The electronic system of transmission, the technology, they could not bypass the technology. They had to shut it down. I'm an engineer. Computers don't work.
So, sorry, sir, please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
So I just want to say, I don't want to hold you up too much because this is not a forum you cannot become knowledgeable if you're not doing your homework before you come to this forum. So there's a lot to it. I think I've explained in detail certain, booby traps in terms of the conversation I had last week.
Mhm.
And the situation in Nigeria, it was pre-planned, premeditated. What is happening in Nasarawa State today? It's exactly what happened in February 25th. Targeted. Let me give you an example. Why religious important? I was the best man to one of my best friends from Nasarawa State in 2004. So you tell the kind of friend I have. A former governor of Nasarawa State is a big-time guy now in APC. They needed a consultant to do some work for them in Nasarawa State. So somebody who was working for the governor came to my friend and said, you know what? We need a consultant to do X, Y, Z. And we know you can do this job. Please come with me. Let's go to the governor. So he took my friend to the governor. My friend made the presentation, all looked good and everything else. Then my friend left. As a follow-up, my friend, the other guy who brought my friend, went back to the governor and told the governor how far with this presentation. It looked good and everything else. Do you know what the governor told this guy? Listen carefully. He told the guy, why did you bring a Christian? I'm not making this up. All right. So you see, look, I went to school in the north. There are good people all over Nigeria. But you have to go to the roots, the foundation, understand Nigeria to know that there are people in there. What we have in Nigeria today, whether you know it or not, there are two forces. The first force is the current force, the force of domination, subjugation, retardation, retrogression, deception, the force of enslavement. The second force is the force of freedom, equity, fairness, liberty, emancipation, to birth a new Nigeria. The former, which is the current force of the past, because today came from yesterday, they will not allow that a new Nigeria be birthed. Our youth also will not agree. So what is happening in Nigeria, whether you deceive yourself or not, we're heading on a collision course on two forces. The old forces, which must die naturally, and the new forces, which are by far in the majority, that have been denied that God-given right, and are going to prevail. That's what I'm going to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you. I like that the second force will prevail because it's in the majority and it's in the interest of the good of Nigeria. And we're not going to lose hope, and we'll continue to collaborate, to work together for that new Nigeria. And that's why we do this platform. That's why there are other platforms where these discussions are going on. And at some point, it really would catch on. It was said before that there couldn't be a third force, but look, there's a third force now. And we shouldn't wait until another 4 years. The action to take back Nigeria is now, is not in 2027. It's this very moment, this time that we have. May I have Mr. Stephen Ushukeye? Please go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I think everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you watch, there was a time I raised up my hand and then I dropped the hand. But when the moderator keep on saying what the people can do, even after one of the speakers have said, after we have said that the whole thing is with the judiciary now, but since the discussion on what the discussion is since the discussion is upon what people can do, it's very simple. Nigeria is a democratic country. And from democracy that we know in the last 20 years plus where we are, democracy is the government of the people. And what now depends is in Africa and Nigeria in particular, what kind of democracy do we have? That is another question. It's very easy to say the country is a democratic country, but what kind of democracy? How is the power being distributed? What does the Constitution say? On my own definition of the type of democracy that is in Africa is a kind of dictator democracy. You see, where the Constitution itself gives the power to one arm of the government over the other. Like the executive has the power over the legislative, more power over the legislative. The legislative are just the rubber stamp of what the executive wants to do. And the judiciary too, they have no teeth. That is the kind of democracy that is most common in Africa. Apart from Nigeria, another country is Uganda. We can see it in Cameroon and other African countries, where the executive has the power to dictate for the legislator. They are just figurehead to do what the executive wants. Even the judiciary too. So, and in the view of this, what can the people do? Few days ago in Israel, Netanyahu wants to reform the judiciary. He wants to curb the power of the Supreme Court so that the executive can question the determination of the Supreme Court, even in their choice and so on. Then the people now come back to what the people do. The people rise. No gun was shot, no injury, no death. At the end of the day, the whole thing was stopped, at least for now. So if the people do not rise up, a few days ago, many of us that are current, we know what I'm saying. In Israel, Netanyahu is a kind of authoritarian man. We all know him if you follow world politics. He has a lot of things upon his head, even as a prime minister. So now the first thing he do in his new term is to attack the judiciary, but the people resist it. They resist him. Everybody, the union, even he fire his defense minister. He fire his defense minister. Even those in his party, local party. So the people have power in democracy because the government belongs to them. All the elected democratic leaders, they are their employee. They employ them. But in Africa, it's not like that. Anytime I talk to somebody, they will tell me, oh, Nigeria is not like where you are. Nigeria is not. I said, when will Nigeria get to where I am? After 50 or 60 years. When will we start the journey? So what will the people do? It's resistance. Peaceful. It happens all over the world, everywhere. We see it everywhere. It happens. Nobody will die. No, but if that happens in Africa, before you know, it's the army. We all see what happened at Lekki. After a few days, the army come out and begins to kill. But in a real democracy, that will not happen. So it's a dictatorial democracy. People are shouting after the election, If you have grievances, go to court. Even former president, go to court. It's all lie. They are very quick to say, go to court, go to court. They know what will happen in the court. Go to court, go to court, go to court. All they are looking for now, presently now that as we are waiting for the court, is somebody that will make a scapegoat of. Somebody that will maybe Obi or Atiku, or somebody that will make a statement and then they will not now say, oh, okay, you want to destroy the country. Now they will now pin the person down as they did to one about a few years ago. So it's just, I know we will get there. Nigeria will get there. It starts from that beaver. But upon the beaver, you see how they dance around it. Now they unleash violence. There is nothing that say from that presidential to governorship that Labour should not take Lagos. Not in 3 weeks. But you can see the kind of violence they unleash. That's not democracy. They unleash it everywhere, everywhere. They harm people, they hurt people. And so God will help us. What will people do? Well, let's keep praying. We are a religious country. Let's keep praying. We are going to be hopeful. We are going to look for a better future, a better tomorrow. But one day, we will get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And just a point of information, it is Nigerians. The institutions are created by people, by human beings, by Nigerians. The people that went to Lekki, the army, yes, we want to call them army, but they are also Nigerians. Those that are serving in the judiciary are Nigerians. And I think it's just an issue of us putting country ahead of personal interest. That is some reorientation. And Mr. Chairman has been talking about that. How do we come back to that reorientation of putting country ahead of our own personal interest? So I'm going to ask Miss Fumi Ajayi Tomori and then Mr. Zachary Gundu to please unmute and speak. And I believe Pastor Sonny is in. Welcome, Pastor Sonny. So please, let's try to keep it so that let's keep it to like a minute or so, a minute and a half, so that we can have other people speak as well. Go ahead, Miss Ajayi Tomori.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Last week, I was going to ask Honorable Adeneko, what did he think the violence and thuggery cost them in terms of the fact that they are going to take over the government? Did he think it augurs well for them to start their rule in a comfortable way? And unfortunately, my own answer is it costs them more than what they think. For example, how do you preach or fight insecurity? He said you shouldn't fight, you cannot fight insecurity. Fortunately, Boris Johnson came on Monday at the IM Osage meeting, and he said it was possible. Number two, how would you mobilize for unity when you are spitting fire and broom to people, instead of the leadership to be humble and to be positive? And then number three, how would you curb violence and thuggery when you yourself launched it in Lagos? Number four, corruption. How would you, number five, would you manage the various weak institutions we have in the country, the civil service, the judiciary, and others? And of course, within the last 1 week or two, what we are seeing, I am very scared. There doesn't seem to be any point of agreement. And there seem to be everything is just toxic. I was surprised to hear the Deputy Governor of Lagos State saying that, after all, there were only about 84 spots in Lagos where they had violence, compared with 13,000 polling booths they had. People are only angry because they are bad losers. I just scratched my head when I heard it yesterday or so. So in other words, we are in for a very, very rough ride. And of course, you have the story or about the Chief Justice that they traced everywhere in Europe. And the feeling is that they went to meet the president-elect. So these are all the issues, just complicating matters more and more, and drawing the distance between the various groups in Nigeria. Ethnicity is becoming very rhyme. Pride, and as one gentleman said, the threat to use power, that they will attack their opponents. Well, thank God, we had, I don't know, some of you must have had President Biden's launching of this Conference of Democracy in Washington. And he said they want to promote democracy in the world, and they want to stem dictatorship or autocratic government. Those two things gave me hope this week, because between last week and now, I was very, very distressed. What type of country is this? Are we going forward or backward? And when Boris Johnson gave his speech, I hope some of the incoming government listened to it. And then Biden said yesterday he was voting $600 million for the promotion of democracy. And he said, even though America has its own problems, but they work on it. People are free. There is freedom. And 5 things he hinged fighting for democracy on was free and independent press, stemming corruption, promoting human rights, use of technology to promote democracy, and then free and fair elections. I posit that the incoming government is not doing itself a lot of good, because I thought there are more people who should be more diplomatic. And you can see the British representative here responding to Femi Fani-Kayode. They have issues, which I don't want to mention here. All of you know, issues of some past records. I don't know how we are going to sort it out. So what do? We cannot give up hope. I think the advocacy group that we must partner with others. We must raise our voice strongly. We don't want ethnicity, religion, bigotry to break up this country. We don't want anybody with absolute power. There must be respect for the rule of law. There must be respect for the citizens. Oh, my dear brothers and sisters, the poverty out, is sickening. I live on the mainland, and when I see, I live in Nilupeji, when I'm walking around, even drivers in my compound, I almost sometimes go and buy bread for them as far to give them food. The poverty is stinking. And yet people are walking about. People who are spending taxpayers' money are walking about without feeling a bit of sympathy to serve. They are not interested in serving. Mm-hmm. So I put it to you that African leadership, we have to partner. There are many other people fighting for this thing. The more we are, the stronger we are. And if we stand firm with partners on advocating for a peaceful Nigeria, a Nigeria that works for everybody, mm-hmm. Government tyranny, corruption, freedom of the press. And those are the things we should be singing from now and very loudly too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And those are very tangible things that us as individual Nigerians can do. Resist corruption, resist tribal or religious bigotry for that matter, and then continue that message of peace and hope. And that is what is within our power to do together as Nigerians. Collaboration is key. United we stand and divided we fall. Thank you for those comments. May I have Mr. Zachary and then Mr. Shegun, and then Pastor Sonny, you can please come in when you have a minute. Go ahead, Mr. Zachary, and then we'll have Mr. Shegun.
Thank you so much. I just want to say a few things very quickly. I come from Benue State. It's good to know this. I come from the Middle Belt. I come from what technically is called the North. And I want to say that from my own understanding of this country, we are not yet agreed to be a single nation. We are not yet agreed to be a single nation. I got my first university education in at the Ahmadu Bello University of Zaria in the far north. I stayed there. I know how people relate there. And I know that if you are in the north, the person who crosses into this country from Niger or from Chad or from some other part in the Sahel would be assimilated, would be accepted in Zaria or in Kano or in Sokoto ahead of you, who is coming from the southern latitudes. The point I'm trying to make, and I was also educated in Ibadan, so I've stayed also in the Southwest. So I know what I'm talking about. I think we are not yet agreed as a people to be in the same country and to build a nation. When we agree that we want to be in the same country and to build a nation, the first thing that we change is our educational system. When the colonial masters left us, we inherited their educational infrastructure and their educational philosophy, and we started looking for certificates. So our education gives us an interest in that piece of paper, which you will call a certificate, and you are looking for work. It does not give us understanding and learning to live as a people in our own country, separate from other countries, and then to take responsibility for our development. If our education were to do that, the first thing we will look at, which we will frown at, would be that no country in the world, and I'm not sure of one, I may be wrong here, that lives on anything other than taxes. It is only Nigeria that survives without taxes. The governor in Zamfara, or in Kwara, in Benue, in Kogi, in another state, is not coming to govern with tax money. Is coming to govern with allocations that are given to him. And as long as we don't turn away from these allocations, but we are looking for them, even if we restructure and leave a people in their own tiny enclave, which may be a clan, they will still be fighting over the allocations that come to them. If it is taxes, and the person who is in Lagos, in Kano, in Kaduna, is paying the taxes, he will ensure that the road that is leading to his house is properly maintained with those taxes.
That is true.
That person would also ensure that the school around him is maintained with the taxes he pays. But because it is allocation, somebody will live the school around him and take his child about 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers away to put in a school. So Nigeria is actually still a jungle. If we believe in it, we have to come together and say we believe in this jungle, and we have to make sense out of this jungle. Otherwise, we'll just continue hitting our heads against the wall. This
Thank
is
you,
my
sir.
small take
Thank
in
you.
this matter.
Thank you so much for those contributions. Appreciate it. So we need to be vested stakeholders in the country by paying our taxes. We need to also be patriots and be committed to Project Nigeria. Thank you. And I'm going to have, I had Mr. Segun Odushote. I had your hand up. Do you still want to go ahead and speak, or should I call on someone else? And then I'll have Barrister Kachi also speak. Mr. Segun Odushote, do you still want to speak? We asked you to unmute. Your hand was up. If not, we can move to the next person.
Okay, right. I can't speak for a bit. I missed the first half an hour or so. I came in when I heard the woman that last spoke.
Yes.
Before the last gentleman. So I heard her speaking. So I'm not too sure of the context, but I'm just going to give my brief in terms of just following on what the last person said. Citizenship, it's something that needs to be understood and needs to be taught right from right from like primary schools, because I think part of the problem that we have in Nigeria is we citizens don't know the power that we have, and so we allow people in government to rule us anyhow. You know, we're badly governed. We are not too different from a country like the Republic of Congo, that just from the natural resources alone, it's worth like $24 trillion. Nigeria is blessed with loads of natural resources. Nobody should be poor in Nigeria based on God-given natural resources. And we also have talent in terms of human capital, in terms of humans. Our parents have done very well, including me as a parent. We've done very well in making the effort to educate our children, but we're being badly governed. It's been the situation that in the past, young people got into government, but they stayed there. They stayed there by acquiring the wealth and by being the powerhouse because of their wealth. And so money has continued to dictate who gets into power, both from the primaries, the party primaries, and then at the main elections, we're left with whoever comes in from the primaries to choose from. And the system has been, anything but, fair or trustworthy. In the past election, there was a lot of hope, and you could see young people got invigorated and rejuvenated, and they went to vote. But the outcome, the way it was handled, that even the results of the presidential elections could not be uploaded despite all the promise that gave people, hope, that gave people a desire to go and participate. All of that promise was broken. And so what is going to happen in terms of, in the future, like you saw the lower turnout in the governorship elections, this is how they're destroying the future of the country, because if we don't have good leaders, and if we don't fight for good leadership and demand good leadership as citizens, and we will continue to suffer as a people a land that is blessed, people that are very well educated and demonstrate outside of the country. So many the countries that are thriving sing the praises of Nigerians who are in those countries, because of the contributions Nigerians make to their economy.
Yes.
And they continue to seek Nigerians, but at home, we've had bad governance. So the first thing that I think we have to do, I'm somebody who is a developer, I'm into IT, right? The first thing I think we have to do is insist on a change of how we vote and how it gets counted for the future, and we have to go into full electronic voting. We have to start it now. We have to start to prepare it. But for me, I think in terms of going into electronic voting, it's just beyond electronic voting. We have to go into blockchain. And it's not something that I will discuss now, but that is where the trust is. The basic idea of the blockchain is that you're not using one server, you're using distributed ledgers, you're using distributed servers, where it's very difficult for somebody to break it. If somebody attempts to break it, the factor of truth is on so many servers, and it will be eliminated. But I'm just going to finish with this, because that's not for me, that's the first thing I would like to see in the future. Basically, that we change the system. We demand as a people that this is the system that we want. We're going to prove it to Nigerians that it works, maybe in about a year's time. And people have to speak out and say, we want the system that we can trust like this. Okay, so that's one. But in terms of governance going forward, I think the grounds for law and order need to be rebuilt, because if elections have been the way they have been done the way they are, it would have eroded. On which basis can you actually say somebody's a thief?
Yeah.
We have to find a way to rebuild grounds for law and order, because it means nothing now if people who have stolen elections are people in power. So how do we rebuild that? How do we rebuild trust in the people? This thing about, I'm a Yoruba man, and I believe the main thing about the Yoruba thing is that we are an inclusive people, and we don't, discriminate. I'm talking about from the point of view of
generally, right? Because it did appear so. This election, it almost appeared like we were the
exactly. I was very
villains in this year.
To be honest, I was really ashamed of of a number of things that I saw and that people allowed. It's like they forgot the sacred trust of our fathers. People like somebody like Hawo Lowo, wanted, yes, Nigeria functions as a unitary system rather than a republic. He wanted it to function as a republic. He had studied what happened in several countries, but he worked with people.
Yeah.
So we've broken those things, and it's a shame. What really makes us stand is our principles, and we should not renege on our principles.
Thank you.
We need to find a way to build a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you for those contributions. Thank you very much. Pastor Tayo, if you're on, there's been this talk about educating the citizens, because it's not just the electoral process. We also have to have the electorate that are well versed on the process, and that's how we can have a strong democracy. Because what it has been is like the political system or the political class knows exactly what they're doing and how to go about it, but it seems like we, the electorate, have quite a lot to learn. So Pastor T, I don't know if you want to speak about the Citizens Academy, just like a brief overview, because there is a need for that, or you want to put that off to another time. Okay. If Pastor T is unable to unmute, Pastor T, you can unmute and just, okay. I'll call on, I had Mr. Toun Ajibade, his hand was up. Okay, Pastor T, go ahead. Yes, you're muted, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Sister Jumi. I think hearing all what the speakers have said, You had mentioned that our focus should be what is the way forward? What are the issues which we all know? And thank you all for still bringing out more issues, but solutions. One of the things that is very interesting that has been proposed to us today on the platform is the case study of Israel. And that is an outstanding case study. We don't need to go far to look for solutions. We all know as professionals, there's what we call best practices. We look at best practices to see what others have done that have proven to yield sustainable results. And very currently, the issue of Israel, and I've been following it too, thank you for the speaker who brought it up, is an example of citizens' movement, mobilization, and engagement that draws on leadership, that pulls the power of authoritative leadership down. And so when we see people moving, so individually in our groups, whether it's associations of old boys, old girls, we need to be strongly educated as citizens how to be faithful, purposeful, driven citizens, and how to stand up and speak up. We cannot be silent and just talk. Yeah, we need to do this. We do so much of talking, but now to move to the action. Nothing stops us from moving from one little group, from place to place, to demand what is right. And then the other speaker talked about citizenship. It is true. If we're going to turn the situation around, the way forward, education is an indispensable asset. And so we need to teach citizen civic education right from the grassroots so that children know what it means to be a citizen of Nigeria. What are the principles of civic engagement? Once they know that and they grow up to high school and then to college, by the time they get into the workforce, we'll be able to address these issues. So we have collective action, we have civic education, citizens empowerment, enlightenment, and engagement, and then really citizens action. If we don't do the action part, it doesn't matter how much education we give, and they still keep silent and don't stand up. There will be sacrifices. And to be honest, we have to face it. There may be lives lost because there is a price to pay. No one that has achieved much would not have a sacrifice. And I think one of our female speakers mentioned another case study about humble leadership. Finland is already demonstrating what it means to have humble democratic leadership. We can study from them. They have standards, leadership, codes of conduct that every political leader, public service leadership, public service leader must comply with, and they are strict about it until we citizens rise up and demand that there needs to be a public leadership code of conduct, a political leadership code of conduct, a citizen participation in political parties, not qualifying it by money. Until we do that, we're not going to see a new Nigeria. It doesn't matter how creative we are. So we, African Leadership Group, has now come up with a Citizens Academy for Social Responsibility. And I'm calling on all of us when we put out the program to please come and learn. If you don't learn and you don't know how political process work, how government works, and how you can influence your space to move into action, then we will all still be hammering on talking and saying it's a bad Nigeria. No matter how bad it is, actually the best of transformation happen when things are the lowest ebb. The best of change management happens when it looks as if everything is broken. So we're at a good place. We're at a good place. But it's time for citizens, not only for all of us, go to your community and begin to do a mobilization, begin to empower people, begin to talk to people. But we're going to provide you with the tools, the training, and I hope you join the classes so that after you are equipped and empowered, you can then go out and equip and empower others through your own space and your own group. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Pastor Tayo Fagbenro, he's the Director of Training and Research for Africa Leadership Group. and he's the brain that has been putting the training package together. The academy that is going to be launched is a 2-part, so it's in the draft stage, and we would definitely be keeping you posted on that. That's coming summer, or in the next couple of months. We will be able to share more information about that, because we think that's very, very important for us to now begin to take action, but informed decision. We make informed decision with the information that we get. And as he said, we are equipped with the tools and resources that we need to be active participants in democracy. Thank you. After Mr. Toun Ajibade and then Pastor Sonny, I'm going to hand over to you. Go ahead, Mr. Toun Ajibade. Please unmute yourself. Mr. Ajibade, can you, okay. Are you on, Mr. Ajibade? I had asked you to unmute. Okay. So over to you, Pastor Sonny.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pastor Jumoke. It's great to be here. I'm here for a while, but I will soon jump off. I have another meeting. But great. Thanks to everybody that have spoken. And I think what we are trying to do is to chart the way forward. Elections have come and gone. Some winners are already known. Some are still being challenged in court, so the process is not over yet. And I like the ideas that I hear people throwing up and bantering. And who will hold these leaders accountable? It's me and you. So we must form ourselves into cohesive groups at different strata to hold these guys accountable. Otherwise, it will be business as usual. The task of rescuing Nigeria is a continuous one, like I always say. It's not a dash, it's a marathon. We have started, we can't give up. We may not have gotten all that we wanted in this last election, but the process has started. So at the end of it all, it doesn't matter the people that eventually settle down to govern, we must be ready to hold them to account for every cent they are spending. Because I've had this said in Nigeria before, that we didn't say they should not eat money, but at least they should do small work for us. No, 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 no. It's not their money. They shouldn't even take a cent out of it. And also they shouldn't spend outside, lavishly, even if they are not using it on themselves. They cannot afford to just dole it out as if it's theirs to give. We see governors just wake up, they dash out 10 billion. How? Who appropriated that? Where did they get such powers? So these are some of the things that, as we step into this current regime, we must be ready to hold people accountable. And I dare say, and we in the African Leadership Group, we're going to work with a few other people to make sure that this happens. Early in the day, I think during Obasanjo's era, they used to have this monthly media engagement. We must hold our governors or all elected executives, not legislators yet, to speak to the people at least once a month. It's not that there will be Naira crisis in the country and we don't know what the president thinks, the governor never speaks on it, everybody is mute, telling us that, oh, they have appointed people to take care of it. It doesn't happen like that. Because they don't show up for the press to interrogate them regularly, we must at least get them to speak to the people at every occasion and then engage the press the way they do in civilized countries, so that we will know what they are doing, what they are thinking is. We never hear our leaders speak, so we don't know what they think on various issues. And whenever they want to speak, it's always scripted and from a cage office. No, we must be able to talk to them just like we meet them impromptu and ask them. So as they are still going around now, basking in the euphoria of their victory and all of that, we must put some of these questions to them. And for the legislators, there must be quarterly engagement. And that's where I want everybody to take notes. There are legislators representing you, whether State House of Assembly, Federal House of Reps, Senate, and they have constituency offices in their various constituencies. We must look for where these places are, especially if you're living in Nigeria. And then we must go and try and find out when the meetings have been slated for, and then make a point to attend, because these things happen. But a lot of us do not take the time to want to attend. So they just gather their supporters, they buy them some drinks, they make noise, and they say they have gone to engage with their constituencies. So we must make out time to know where these constituency offices are, and then go there, find out when meetings are slated for, demand to speak with them, because if you place a demand in that office, they should be able to contact him. I mean, as it happens in the Western world. So you can go to the rep office and say, this is my issue, you want to speak with them. We must also begin to do that. And then another thing I want to say that we must pursue is allocation, all this budget allocation. Okonjo-Iweala did that a bit. Whatever was allocated to state governments, local government was published every month. Now, I don't know, there's an NGO also that is looking after that. We must be interested. If 100 million is coming to my local government every month, I want to know what it is being spent on. So I may just be interested in my local government. And my local government doesn't have to be my own state local government. It could be the local government where I live, in Ondo State, for example, or in Bauchi State, wherever. So we must be interested in how our monies are being spent. All this issue of secrecy around budget and all of that should be done away with. It's our money. We should know. None of them went there with their money. So I don't understand these things. People are elected, they ask them questions, they are getting angry. Why? It's not your money, it's not yours to spend. So the issue around that is something that I think we should also get around to. And the other question is the question of these accounts that are being operated either by state government, local government, government agencies, and parastatals. They have multiple accounts. Some, even the federal government does not know how much is in those accounts. And these agencies and parastatals just squander them. It shouldn't be. And so we must be ready. So there are a couple of things we can do. Now the real issue of governance is about to start, and we must be ready to monitor them. So these are just some thoughts, you know, throwing it out here so that as we are working towards getting all this together, we would be very structured in our approach. I hear somebody talk about restructure. You posted something. I agree, restructuring is an absolute must. And there are quick wins that the federal government can do. Thank God all the parties have promised restructure, one form or the other. There are things that don't have to go through legislation that can be done, quick wins. The ones that need to go through those, we would get them, because this country must be restructured for it to work. I had the man from Benue State talking. I know Benue State very well. They are northerners, but their own situation is even more dicey because they are neither accepted in the north that they belong to, neither are they southerner. So they have carved a comfortable middle belt for themselves, which I think it's okay. All right. The reason why we are all complaining about this north-south dichotomy is because we have not seen a good government. To be honest, if we see one good government in 4 years, everybody will forget whether they are Christians or southerners or northerners, because you will see justice, you will see equity, you will see good governance, you will see accountability, and no matter where you come from, if you see, you will believe. So the reason why many of us do not believe is because over the time we haven't seen anything. And lastly, before I shot back to Jumoke to hand over, the very first episode of this series was handled between myself and Pastor Itua. He was interviewing me, and he asked me, he said, what will I do if I were the president of Nigeria, as we normally ask in those days? And I said, I will not do anything. I will do two basic things. I will make sure that the police, security agency, top-notch, and then judiciary, and then people will be held to account. People will go to jail. People must be, whatever, even if you take 1,000 naira that does not belong to you, it doesn't belong to you. So I will make sure I deliberately look for scapegoats, deliberately, listen to my word, because Nigerians, they know how to hide. They think they can hide. And what betide you if you are that one? You will go to jail, and we'll keep sending people to jail until everybody understands that you don't have a right to take a cupboard that belongs to the people. So the reason why we're in this mess in Nigeria is there's no accountability. All the governors that have governed from 1999 up to now, everybody has gone scot-free. Even the one that was jailed, Buhari released them or released him. After spending our country's money to Supreme Court level, eventually they were jailed and they were released. You know, so why will anybody think that there's punishment for doing evil? So we must be ready to engage these people right now. You know, when people just first get into office, they are willing to listen, they are willing to do so many things. But if we let them settle down, they'll settle down to the old ways. So we must be on top of everybody, whether governors, legislators, whoever becomes the president eventually, we must be on their neck. And that is what we are dedicated to doing here. And as many people as are willing to join us, you know, join us to fight and to continue to hold these people accountable. It's a task that we cannot let go. You know, we must. In civilized countries where things work, the people are engaged. And so the people never let off on their leaders. And that is what I want to say, you know. So way forward, we are clearly charting a way. And this is what I think, you know, we must hold people accountable. How do we put all this together? How do we get the people? How do we mobilize ourselves to do this? I think is an issue that we now need to work out and see how we move forward with that. Okay, so just a few thoughts. This forum is for all of you to just state your ideas. Jumoke, I hope you've been able to pen down a few things. Sometimes when these things come like that. So thank you. We're willing to take more contributions and talks from people.
Mr. Tom Ajibade had his hand up and then we lost him. Mr. Ajibade, if you're back in, you can please go ahead and ask your question or make a comment. Mr. Ajibade.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Oh, Miss Ajibade. Okay, my apologies.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, we are saying Nigeria path to the future. I would rather say the Nigerian in capital, in caplocks, what does the typical Nigeria want? Because this subjective morality and judgment, I think we need to bring to a close permanently in our country. As far back as the early 20s, sorry, as far back as the early 2000s, excuse me, an 8-year-old girl walked up to me and said, and they told her that people from my tribe are bad people. But she told them that me, I'm not a bad person. This was early 2000, an 8-year-old girl. That girl will grow up looking at the people from my tribe as not being good for her in the same country. Then how do we now go on to say we are united, we are one country? Yes, democracy, it's all about interest. Sorry, politics is all about interest, and democracy is the government of the people, for the people, by the people. So it brings me to this question that I'm a Nigerian, I want the best for my country, but do I trust my neighbor, the next person to me? Are we on the same page? Do we truly want the same thing? We really need to tell ourselves the truth. I am not sure of the percentage of the people that really want this country to move forward. We just have to tell ourselves the truth, because you see things every day that post contrary to what we want every other person to believe. And we cannot go on that way. We need to tell ourselves, what do I want? And I think the easiest thing for me to do, I will impact better by having an interest on who becomes my state governor, who represent me at the local government level, than all of us looking for who wants to be the president. It's easier for me. It's closer to me. They will impact me more and better. So I think if we address these issues the way we should, holistically, and tell ourselves the truth, within 4 years, Nigeria will become an envy for every nation. We have all it takes, physically, spiritually, materially, resources. God has blessed us. So we should start. And I think on my own corner, little corner, I should do the best. The next person do the best. And before you know it, we have the best all over the country. God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much. Thank you, ALG. Bye.
Thank you for that powerful contribution. It's in our hands, and we will start from our local government, where within our own sphere of influence. Abuja or Aso Rock is very far within our locality, even within our neighborhood, within our household. That's where we begin to make those changes. Thank you for those powerful contributions. May I speak, Auntie Adesua, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. You can all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Adesua Osime. I agree with what the last speaker just spoke and all other people. I think we really need to look inward. We need to start with ourselves. How involved are we? How much interest do we have in this country? How passionate are we about this country moving forward or things being done the right way? I would tell you about 80% of people have the attitude of Nigeria is Nigeria. It's business as usual. You know, nothing good happens. I think we have to change that attitude. If we change that attitude and take Nigeria as a project, as a personal project, you know, you can't touch everywhere, but within your own confinement, starting from yourself, are we doing the right thing? Are we saying the right thing? How much impact are we having on the people around us? Are we enlightening the people around us within our environment? I live in an estate and I look at the place as a mini Nigeria. And incidentally, there's a pastor who is a female who put in for presidential as a presidential candidate. And I said to myself, I was livid. And I saw it as an insult on myself that such a person wants to rule this country, my country. She has nothing to write home about, even for being a pastor. I mean, we have to be sincere with ourselves, you know? I've given her some little hints. In fact, I always send this message to her. I hope she listens to it. We had a little, last December, we had a little project. I was given a cake as an elder in my church. So I donated the cake to the estate. They said, oh, fantastic. They were all happy that, oh, they'll have a party for the children. They called it Christmas party. I said, no, let it call it end of year party because we have Muslims and Christians here. So, okay, it was not tagged end of year, but so she said, okay, she'll coordinate it. On the day of the event, she sent a message that this person is not doing this, not responding. She's tired. They'll just call it off. I said, excuse me, madam. And you wanted to be president of Nigeria and you're a pastor? Quickly, she did a turnaround, you know? So we have to try what we can do, how we can encourage people, how we can make people better. Maybe another thing we can do is we'll have a school where we can handpick certain people that have solid background, people who are not hungry, people who are not poverty-stricken, you know, and maybe groom them, then push these people out. It's an idea that came to me years ago. This is something we can do. Say, look, as we have the African Leadership Group, I'm sure we can get 20 people that we can groom, you know, starting from now for the next, you know, stage. Thank you. I think that's my contribution. The others I had put on the platform, I had written on the platform.
Thank you so much for those powerful contributions. And yes, we have to hold each other accountable. Thank you for doing that. And we have to reject bad leadership and also ensure that there are consequences for actions. May I call on Ms. Florence to please ask her question? Your hand is up. I've asked you to unmute. Ms. Florence?
Okay. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much. In fact, I'm sorry I've been trying to meet up this webinar because it looks so interesting. You get it? I really appreciate all everybody has said. But on one corner, I would like to say that, yes, Nigeria is our country, and we need to salvage it together. Not by one man, but by everybody. Starting from your home. What is your leadership style in your home? How do you handle your home? Are you the kind of man that beats up your wife and abuses your children? Are you the kind of woman that don't have respect for your home or for your children? Are you the kind of person who don't obey or respect others? Look at yourself. First, self first. What kind of person are you? Before you now go out, I heard the last speaker talking about somebody. Yes, these things we see outside concerning people didn't just start. It started from their homes. If we go deep, we will see that it started from their homes. If you are not a thief from your home, even no matter the position you hold, you will never steal. You will never be attracted. Is it not the same election where people are complaining that somebody came out to reject being bribed to do something wrong? Is it not the same election? I saw a post where somebody was saying about 38 vice chancellors or thereabout, and some people were involved in the scandal. Just imagine that. Okay, right now, I always say that the people that will fix this country, Nigeria, are going to be women. I believe that strongly, and I have seen it. Then, although I'm not saying that women are saints or they are perfect, no, we are human beings. We have our differences. We have our mistakes. I'm not saying that, but I believe that compared the two gender, women will do better. Secondly, yeah, that's true. Now, when we talk about the issue of, position, yes, it is true that those at the local level need to be held accountable. Very 100% correct. Now, let me tell you one thing. Leadership on top, if it is bad, it will trickle down. Now, the Constitution does not have put the local government, I think it has been amended now, I can't really say for sure, under the apron of the governors. The governors decide when to conduct election. The governors put somebody there as the electoral body that will be in charge of the election. The governor decides who comes in and who doesn't go in, who wins and who loses. Is that democracy? Absolutely not. And at the end of the day, when they get their allocation, the governor decides what to give to them and what he needs to keep.
Yeah.
The one that is not loyal is being shortchanged with suspension or asking the what do you call them, the legislative body to do the needful, put him out and put a stooge there that they can control.
Yes.
Is that one democracy?
Yeah.
So that person now at that local government who is trying to do his best to salvage his community or his local government is being deprived. He's being deprived. So he will think, oh, I spent money in this election. Can I compromise in order for me to get the money I spent? Those are the issues that are being on ground.
Yeah, like you said, it comes to us, the reorientation, and I think that's a common thread here where we've all been talking about we, the people, just doing the right thing, holding ourselves accountable, holding our leaders accountable, being informed as well, and then being those agents of change. And so those are just some of the important things, because it's all, and us taking the power back, having the power, knowing that the government is by us and it is for us. Everyone that is in office today are Nigerians. They were not born politicians. They came from the community. They came from our households. They came from our churches. They came from our mosques. We went to school with them. So they are Nigerians. They are from the society. So we need to make those changes within ourselves and be change agents. Thank you so much for those comments. I'm going to take one more comment and we are going to close. This has been interesting. And I think it's not a topic we can exhaust in terms of, you know, and I don't want to say the ills, but we need to talk about the way forward. What are some of those practical steps that we can take? And Pastor T talked about it, and a few of the speakers also talked about it. Education, information. Education is not necessarily going to a classroom and sitting within the four walls, but righteousness. What are some of the good qualities that we can take and then now be? And I would use and take that gospel out and begin to make those changes. Be the change you wish to see. A lot of things that we are enjoying in this world today. I live in the US, and part of the civil rights that I'm enjoying is because a few people got up that stood against slavery and racism. It's still going, it's still ongoing, but the struggle continues, and more people come on board and then maintain the struggle and continue to push and move to the next level. So those are the things that we as citizens can do: be empowered and be committed to making those changes. The visionary of this platform had that. He has Nigeria, the interest of his heart. Pastor Sonny talked about how they started, and it's been 2.5 years, and it's still going because people said they want to make a change, and they committed to it. They put their resources into it, and this is what we all need to do. We all need to put our resources into it, and a vision that Nigeria that is possible for all of us, and begin to actively pursue that Nigeria. Thank you, Mr.
Please, excuse me, please. I would like us to have a kind of network. I don't know if you have my information.
Please put it in the chat. If you can put it in the chat,
yeah,
or you can send it directly to me in the chat, and then I can put also our information in the chat also for you. Pastor T, do you mind putting, not Pastor T, Pastor Olu, do you mind putting our information in the chat, and then maybe I will reach out to Miss Florence. Go ahead.
No problem.
Thank you. Mr. Gbolahan.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, Pastor, for the opportunity. I just want to make a few comments real quick. In my observation, a lot of times, many Nigerians think that the salvation of the country will come from the outside. So we look up to what the US can do for us, or what the UK can do for us, what Biden or any other person will do for us. Then the very nature of foreign policy or geopolitics does not actually have other people as a priority. It works on what they call national interest. It is the national interest of the US or the UK that is primary to them. A lot of time, their national interests might not necessarily be the national interest of Nigeria. It is only when, peradventure, there is a sync in these two national interests, that is when they can work in our own interest. Otherwise, anything and everything that they do is all about them, not us. Essentially, it is Nigerians that will solve Nigeria's problem, and it is Africa that will solve Africa's problem, not foreigners. The other part is generally, for me, about leadership. Leadership is at various levels. I see a lot of focus is on, who is the president, or who becomes the president, for example. I live in Lagos, and most of the things that affect my life on daily basis have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with Abuja. The road to my house has nothing to do with Abuja. Water come out of the tap for me to drink, it has nothing to do with Abuja. Which school will my children go to has nothing to do with Abuja. Healthcare, 90-95% of it will be taken care of outside of Abuja. So we need to begin to look at leadership at various levels, even at the parental level. That is where it starts. The parents, the teachers, the religious organizations, the religious leaders are of great influence. The traditional leaders and also the political leaders eventually. But for as long as we are focused only on the political leaders, a lot of things will continue to go wrong around us as far as leadership is concerned. That's why I'm delighted to hear about the leadership school. I believe it is something that could help Nigeria with the issue of leadership emergence how do the people that become political leaders, how do they emerge in Nigeria? Because after they have emerged, a lot of times Nigerians are left between the devil and the deep blue sea. It is these people that emerge that we have to go and vote for. But how do they emerge? So if we pay more attention on leadership emergence process, we might begin to transform this nation block by block. The transformation of this nation may not necessarily start from Abuja. It may start from a place that is closer to us as Nigerians. When there is performance, all the fault lines, I am from Kano, you are from Bayelsa, all the religious differences, everything becomes secondary.
Yes.
Once people are free to pursue their own happiness and prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very well said. And I think that's something the political class has really leveraged to their advantage, our lack of information. I don't want to call it ignorance. I would call it our lack of information. We've always felt so powerless, and we felt the electorate were powerless because we didn't have the information to make the right decision. So there was no need for them to canvass for our votes. They basically imposed themselves on us. But an educated electorate is one that the political class will actually now be pleading. We saw a little bit of it when they saw in this past election, where we saw politicians actually pleading pleading with the electorate. And so that's where we need to get to as a country, where we are empowered with the information and knowledge, and they can't pull the wool over our eyes. I'm going to take a Barrister Kechi, and then we will close. And I know Abiola Sapo. So we'll take these two last hands that I have up, and then we would close. Go ahead, Barrister, and then we'll have Abiola Sapo also.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Jumoke. Thank you for the great work all of you are doing, the team at ALG. I was very energized by the last but one speaker, I think. But not to, obviously our time is far spent. I'm joining you from the UK. One of the things that I have noticed is that I think we are having a problem sequencing the issues. We're not prioritizing them. We're not organizing our shopping list very well. I think we're moving from what is immediate. We need to understand what needs to be done. Some people came to this meeting expecting a strategy for the problem at hand, the elephant in the room right now. And for me, I think that elephant in the room is the whole issue about what is happening in the country right now and what the memo that the DSS put out. That is the biggest talking point for the country right now. And what you draw from there is an apparent strategy to divide the population, to do everything possible to prevent the population coming together as a single force. You know, the theory of the common enemy, you know, the perceived common enemy is a powerful theory used in these kind of situations, political situations. So you create the impression of a common enemy and people unite around it. Now, they're trying to make sure that doesn't happen, that the people, particularly of the South, are divided and stay divided. You know, their unity is a challenge. But speaking of what we need to do, solutions in particular, that problem aside, because that's a problem, you see, everything else we're looking at is kind of longer term. All these things that we're talking about are things we're going to do leading up to the next election cycle. But what will be the nature of the country that will get to that 4-year time? We don't know. So this is an immediate issue that we can manage our expectations. Now, in terms of what to do going forward, I think there's sufficient,
I think we lost your audio, Barrister Kechi. Your audio went off. So, okay. Miss Abiola Sapo, and I'm sorry if I'm not sure if I should address you as Mr. or Miss. So apologies for not giving you the right title. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Mr.
Okay, Mr. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Yes. Thank you very much, Pastor Jumoke. It's been
I have been conferred pastorship by Pastor Sonny, so I guess I'm really pastor now.
Well, once you are ministering the word the way you're doing, you are pastoring us. Thank you very much. It's been very inspiring, our conversation here today. But I just want to ask a few questions, which I think is very, very important for our consideration. One, how many of us on this platform are card-carrying members of any political party? Because we cannot discuss issues of this nature and it becomes faster to get change done when you have a high number of people who are particular and concerned about the change of their society. You know, when the platform, the only way, since there is no provision in our constitution for independent candidates, and the only way you can offer yourself for an office, a political office, is for you to be a member of a political party. You know, so it is important that a large number of educated elites should become partisan. This was the way Nigeria was growing in the First Republic. Those who were among the most educated elites were the ones in politics, you know. And two, because when we're there, our voice becomes more important than when we're not there. For example, we all saw the various primaries of the different political parties, particularly the two biggest ones, that it was highly influenced by what? It became a cash and carry program. And the one that spent the most got the tickets. And I'm sure some of us who have been following the trend before the primaries will remember one very renowned Nigerian, Chief Afe Babalola. He said that the person that is going to win this election will be the one that spent the most. And that appears to be what we are seeing. So it becomes very important for all of us to start thinking of becoming a member of a political party. Yes. Mr. Peter Obi presented a good chance for those who are yet to belong to a platform to see a platform and run with that platform, and all those who
Okay. Did we lose his audio or is it me?
I think we lost him. Network.
Okay. Yeah, because it was shaky, so I thought it was my audio. That's why I turned off my camera. So we've come to a close, and this has just been another insightful conversation or discussion. And you do know that for most of you that are part of this every Thursday, we usually have guest speakers, but we felt today it was important to hear from you as Nigerians because and to help us really begin to chart that path forward to that Nigeria that we want, the Nigeria that we deserve. And we know that it is together, it is us being informed, it is us getting the information that we need and working together. So that's why this session was very important. So we want to thank everyone that contributed to the discussion. At ALG, we continue to work to put this together. Someone had sent a suggestion to us for us to publish a manual or a resource on national development, and that's part of what we're doing. It's something that we hope to be able to achieve. And then the academy that Pastor T talked about is something that is foremost very, very important, and it's something that will be rolling out, but we'll be sharing more of that with you as time goes on. And the way that is planned now is to have two components. One for electorates, where every Nigerian should be a part of that class. And then the second one is for those that are interested in going into a public service, whether it is in running a political office or even as a civil servant. That training we would also be offering that training. So more of that will come. We will share more information with you as time goes on. And then I want to also use this opportunity to appeal to everyone to be engaged with ALG, with the Africa Leadership Group. It's grown. Thank you for your participation over the past few years. And a lot of people have been contributing their intellect to moving this organization forward. So we ask that you continue to be engaged in this process, and we'll continue to work to build that Nigeria that we deserve, the Nigeria that works for all of us. So I want to thank you. And I believe Pastor is in. He came in just at the right moment. I believe I saw him come in. Is Mr. Chairman is in, correct? I thought I saw him come in. Yes. So maybe if we can have him. Yes. Good evening, sir. Welcome. You're muted.
Unmute yourself, sir.
I don't know. Jumoke, maybe you can do like a summary or a précis of how the conversation went.
Yeah, it was quite insightful. We talked about the challenges and then the need to be educated, for us to have an educated electorate and even the educated political class as well. And the change, the reorientation, I know you've been talking a lot about the need for us to reorient our thinking. And so that was also very dominant in this conversation. And for us to also look locally, what can we do that our focus shouldn't be just on Aso Rock, but we should start with maybe our own local government, our state, and then accountability. How do we hold our leaders accountable? How do we ensure that there are consequences for their actions? How are we as citizens empowered? And I think one of the defining moments was an example of using Israel as a case study, where the citizens really resisted a policy and prevailed. So how do we as Nigerians get to that point where we can actually bind together and non-violent, but achieve what we're looking for from the government, and by empowering ourselves? So there's a lot of information, I think, but those were some of the takeaway moments for me. And then Pastor T also talked a little bit about the Citizens Academy for Social Responsibility, because that was very dominant about really educating us as the citizens about our rights and the process, so that we're making informed choices and informed decision. So that's just a brief synopsis of how that conversation went.
Thank you very much, and thank you for keeping it going. What is clear for me now in Nigeria, that the only way forward is reorientating and educating Nigerians across the board. If you don't do that, you will never get the kind of responses that we're looking for. You know, the only reason why you had this obedient movement or labor movement or whatever it was, is that there was a certain class of Nigerians that are now thinking a little bit differently and are looking for change. And most of them are educated Nigerians. Most of them are young Nigerians who are looking forward to something. And most of them are diasporians. And that's why the diasporians were so strong and so forceful, because they were much, much better informed. But as long as you have an underinformed or uninformed populace, you have an illiterate or semi-illiterate political class who just think that, you know, I was somewhere today and I was saying that one of Nigeria's problems is unrealistic selfishness. Unrealistic selfishness. What I mean by that is this. This last elections, there were 18 people trying to run for presidency, 18 of them, okay? Out of the 18, at least 15 of them or 14 of them were totally unrealistic. Unrealistic in that they neither had money, nor structure, nor reach, nor acceptability, not popularity or anything to be able to even begin to campaign in Nigeria. Most of them did not even campaign, not one rally, not one door to door, not one anything. And yet they held themselves out as presidential candidates and refused to back down. And they all wanted to be presidential candidates. Now, what they wanted to gain by that and going through a party process to become the presidential candidate of that party, I really don't understand. And what they're going to gain subsequently, I don't understand. Maybe it's grandstanding, maybe it's to put on their CVs that they used to be presidential aspirants, or maybe it is to use to negotiate sometime in the future for some position or the other. I don't understand. But if that is really what they wanted to do, why didn't they join one of the more popular parties and take a position there and be a much more responsible member of that party than holding out to be a featherweight presidential candidate? You know, unrealistic, and they will not back down. The same thing with some people in gubernatorial, the same thing with people in senatorial and all that. And they are like that because the mind is not very, very open and exposed. So what I think we should really, really try to work on and focus on in ALG is putting a lot of our efforts into reorientating and informing and educating and lifting up the average Nigerian. We need to do that. Without that, we will just be always going in the normal cycle where the state has been captured because the people's minds are not liberated, and where illiteracy, now we have so many thugs all over the place who are now taking position, because they were able to attain political power, and they are just largely not very reasonable in their thinking. The whole thought is that it is now our turn, where we must now do what we want to do with Nigeria. But no nation can thrive on that. So this unrealistic selfishness and so on and so forth can only be broken through mass education, mass information, reorientation, ethical values, and so on and so forth. And unless that is done, we are only going to get great leadership by chance or by accident, because the present political class is very, very entrenched, very, very powerful, to some extent quite wealthy, and therefore, and a lot of them are state actors. So they use the power of the state Very well. And until you can get everybody in the state to rise up and say no more, they will continue to have field of day. So let me thank everyone for coming. Let me thank everyone for their comments and their contributions. But let me please admonish or encourage or suggest that if we're benefiting from the platform, if we're being informed, if we really, really believe in Nigeria, and we really, really are looking towards a greater Nigeria, and we really are willing to make a bit of a sacrifice towards this great Nigeria, then we must all be ready to get involved one way or the other to begin to reorientate the average Nigerian. We can start from our homes. We can start from our immediate communities. We can start from our social circle. We can start from our religious circle. We can start from our business community, continuing to engage people and letting people know that we just have to begin to think differently as Nigerians. If we don't, then this country can just be, it will not really get to where it is going. That's number one thing we can do. Number two thing we can do is to plan the strategic reorientation of Nigeria that we are thinking of, establishing an ALG or an NLS in every local government, reorientating people at the grassroots, educating them, informing them, where possible, empowering them and strengthening them and building them up to be capable Nigerians that can ask questions. And number three, of course, would be to do this, we need quite a bit of resource. So people have ideas as to how we can raise resource, what they're willing to contribute, and so on and so forth, as a sacrifice for Nigeria. Maybe you start the Nigerian Sacrificial Fund to really, really liberate Nigeria. Might sound esoteric, but that's the only way. The Nigerian Sacrificial Fund, where we're all putting in maybe every month 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira, 500 naira, 1 million naira, crowdfunding to sacrifice for the emancipation of Nigeria. It was going to be a constant thing, which is something we need to think of doing on this ALG platform. How do we get crowdfunding on a regular basis to reorientate and to empower Nigerians and to challenge whatever good or bad government is doing? And if we roll out that plan and we work on it for the next 5, 10, maybe 15 years, maybe we can gradually begin to build a new crop of Nigerians that think differently and are ready to provide service in governance rather than procurement and corruption. It's going to be a long haul, but it's a journey well worth taking, because that should have been the responsibility of government. But government will not take that responsibility because it's not in the best interest of people in government. So we have to create almost an alternative to that for the sake of Nigeria and Nigerians. So thank you very much for listening. I hope I've been able to throw in a few thoughts there. And I hope that we can get on this platform as many people as possible to join this movement. You know, I saw somebody put in there the Nigerian Sacrificial Fund for Grassroots Orientation. I think it sounds good. Yes. I think we all need to get in there and get as many people as possible to join both locally and the diaspora. And we'll run the fund well, run the thing well, we'll be accountable, we'll account for every penny, every kobo that goes into this thing, and hope that over time we can get truly a new Nigeria. And then Nigeria will truly be rebuilt. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you. So see you guys next week, Thursday, same time, same Zoom link, and we'll be back on here. Nigerian Sacrificial Fund for Grassroots Mobilization. Thank you. And the numbers to reach us and the email address is in the group chat. If this is your first time here, please reach out to any of those two numbers. My number is on there, Pastor Olu's number is on there, and the email address is on there as well. And we'll be happy to get in touch with you. So
God bless you all. Good night. Have a good weekend. I see
God bless.
Blessing, small voice. You sound very excited about this. So please get in touch with us. So if you're ready to work with us, let's see how to take it. Thank you.
Thank you for putting your contact in the